I was still a virgin my last year of college in Minnesota. And for some reason, I decided the best way to reverse that would be by getting my penis pierced. It all started with my roommate, Mark. Mark already had his penis pierced, and he started bragging to me one day. He said, "Hey, you know, this girl just propositioned me for sex because she was curious about what it felt like. Isn't that awesome?" Now, he was probably lying to me, but I latched on to that story because, I mean, here was a shortcut straight to the sex. And this plan kind of hatched in my mind. Because, you see, Mark was also super gossipy. So I knew if I got my penis pierced, he would blab about it to everyone we knew. Some girls we knew would be curious, and they would ask me about it. Some might even ask to see it. This could get me alone with them, with my clothes already partly off, which was already farther than I had been with a girl before. And from there, we could transition into sex by... Well, you see, I really didn't have all the steps thought through exactly, but I really didn't have a better plan either, so off we went. Now, Mark knew this guy, Brad, who would do it for cheap, which is obviously the best criterion to use in this situation. And in my head, I had just pictured Mark and me going to the salon, piercing salon. Turns out there were 10 of us, other roommates, their girlfriends, hangers-on. A female had never seen my naked penis before, and now 5 of them would. One of them brought a video camera. So we got to the piercing salon. I meet Brad. He has a big pot belly, a lot of tattoos, and he leads us all to this room in the back with this dentist-style chair where I had to lie down. And really, before I was ready, I had to unzip and expose myself. I actually kept my testicles tucked in the waistband of my underwear, like they could hide. And then Brad showed me the needle. It was about yay big. And as soon as I saw that, I looked straight at the ceiling and did not look back down. Meanwhile, though, everyone else is just, you know, milling about, making small talk and little comments like, "Boy, it's gold in here," and "Smile for the camera, Sam," and "Do they always shrink?" It was all very awkward. But kind of unexpectedly, the most awkward part, at least for me, was that I just didn't know, like, where I should rest my hands while I was exposed like this. Like, do I just kind of lounge back in the chair like this, or maybe just park them on my hips, like so? Like there was no good place to put them. Finally, though, Brad asked me if I'm ready, and I nod. He appeared to be counting to 3. He went on 2. And it felt like something with one tooth had bitten into me and was hanging on. It hurt. It hurt so badly. I was coughing, wheezing. I was doubled over. It hurt. But, you know, I was trying to be tough. So as soon as it was bandaged up, I zipped up and I stood up, and then I almost threw up. And they had to take me to this little recovery ward and have me sip Kool-Aid until I felt stable. But about 15 minutes later, I limped out to the car. And I was still, you know, pretty saddle sore at that point, but I was thrilled with myself for having gone through with it. And I was especially thrilled because it was going to happen for me now. And I have to say, Mark had done a fantastic job of spreading this story around. Dozens of people asked me about it. Unfortunately, they asked me a lot of questions I really wasn't prepared for. How do you pee was popular, and I had to explain to them, like, duh, it's not a plug. I mean, I can still go to the bathroom. What I didn't explain was that pee kind of just sprayed all over the place now, and until I got that under control, I actually had to sit down to go to the bathroom. Very manly. This being Minnesota, another popular question was, isn't that a little cold outdoors? And I had to explain to everyone, duh, really fucking cold. Like being stabbed in the dick with an icicle cold. You know how people get their knees replaced sometimes and they have a barometer in there, they can predict the weather? I had one of those in my junk. Any cold front within 200 miles, I knew about it instantly. But the thing is, very few people actually asked to see it. It was mostly guys, and they would just kind of cringe and squirm when they saw it. But really only one female did. It was an old friend of mine, and she just kind of shook her head when she saw it. I think she was actually a little embarrassed for me, maybe thought a little less of me afterward. And really, before I was ready, people just kind of forgot about my piercing. Other fresher gossip took its place, you know, breakups, dropouts, arrests, things like that. And pretty soon, my bionic ding-a-ling was just an afterthought. It was yesterday's news. And really nothing happened until about a year later, and that's when I met Laura. Now, I was still a virgin at this point, but Laura was not in my circle of friends, so she didn't know anything about the piercing, which I was actually kind of grateful for at this point. She had, you know, short dark hair, she had a little gap between her teeth that I thought was kind of adorable, and we got along great, so I asked her out. We went to the movies one night, went to the park, and had ice cream another night, and after our third date, we went over to her place in St. Paul. We started kissing, started making out. Things were getting a little heavy. Now, at this point, I still thought I would have time to come up with an explanation for my piercings like some other night. But that night, before I was ready, Laura's hand swooped down there. And I heard this faint noise, like tunk. See, Laura wore this big metal ring on her finger, and it hit my piercing through my pants. Tunk. So I start squirming, I'm pulling back, but she's on top of me, I can't get any leverage, and then I hear it again. And this time I noticed Laura has stopped, and she started tapping me, like tongue, tongue, ta-tongue, tongue, tongue, tongue. Oh. So I start to try to think how on earth I'm going to explain myself. I mean, maybe I could tell her it was some shrapnel from Nam, or like a little, like, Saturday Night Special. I don't know, but the thing is, I trusted Laura. And so I started telling her the story I'm telling you now about my virginity and how embarrassed I was and this stupid plan with the piercing. I opened up to her. And as soon as I finished, Laura looked at me and pretty much just started laughing in my face. Like, she was actually rolling around on her bed. She was laughing so hard. And at that, I just fled her apartment. And I just remember being furious with myself on the ride home, like slamming my hand on the dashboard, because, I mean, this whole thing had backfired perfectly. This goddamn piercing was now preventing me from having sex. But a few days later, Laura called me, and we talked for a while, and she asked if she could see me again. And in the end, the whole thing kind of ended up giving me this strange confidence boost. Because, I mean, I could do something this stupid, this humiliating, and someone would still care enough about me to want to have sex with me? Wow. And a few weeks later, we did end up having sex. And after it was over and we were lying there together, I asked her how it had felt. Cold, she said, and awkward at first, but a lot less awkward than she'd feared with me. And she said she couldn't wait to try it again. And this time, for the first time in my sex life, I was ready.